Good morning, everybody. Pour over me, Holy Spirit, indeed. Help me learn how to let go. For anybody that does not know me, my name is Reverend Edward Trout. My pronouns are he, him. I'm an ordained interfaith minister through One Spirit Seminary out of New York. It is my distinct pleasure to be your speaker here this morning. I want to start sharing a little story. Michael and I both had recently been down in Florida, as some of you know. We were down there for a conference on applied improvisation. For those of you that have no idea what that is, let me explain. If you're aware of theatrical improvisation, where you perform spontaneously based off of suggestions, applied improvisation uses the same skill sets, but it teaches them as life skills and as communication tools and all of these ways you can apply them throughout the world. I believe this is something that everybody should learn. I think it should be taught in elementary schools. It is world-changing. But we were there for a conference on applied improvisation. It was a lovely conference, and one of the first keynote speakers, we had several, but the first keynote speaker that we had was a man named Drew Tarvin. Actually, he went by Andrew there. I knew him as Drew because I've known him for years through the Comedy Sports Association. And Drew was sharing this story. He gave a lovely, about hour-long keynote, but he shared a story in there about having traveled to Austria with his wife, who is European. And as they were wandering the streets of Austria, she said, you know, there's a custom in Austria in the middle of the afternoon called cake and champagne, where you just take a break and you have a little piece of cake and a glass of champagne just to remind you that life is good and we can do this. Hello, we can do this every day. I hope that wasn't me, but if it was, apologies. So they went ahead, had their cake and champagne, and it was such a lovely thing that, and now I'm quite loud and echoey. It was such a lovely thing that they did it every day on that trip. And then even once they came back, they continued with that particular practice of cake and champagne. So Drew, much later, was at a conference where he was speaking, and there was an Austrian speaker there, and he was so glad to be able to share that story. And so he's sharing that story on stage, as he did with us, about cake and champagne and this lovely Austrian custom. And the Austrian speaker said, I have no idea what you're talking about. It turns out his wife had just wanted cake and champagne that afternoon, and so she made up a tradition. And could he be angry about it? No. They loved the tradition, and they still carry it on to this day. It's not an everyday thing, but frequently they'll just take a break for cake and champagne. That idea that, you know, you want to create this thing. Like, I want this break in the middle of the day. Okay. What's holding you back? Create it. If you don't have what you want, make it happen. Don't lie about it, but make it happen. So this month we've had an overall focus on our power of will. Thomas, the first week of the month, even though we were gone, we were listening via Facebook in the car, gave a beautiful talk on the power of will and used all of these personal stories to illustrate how the power of will shows up realistically in our lives. And then the week after that, Michael gave a talk called My Dedication, where he focused a lot, but not solely, but a lot on the dedication, the written dedication that Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, the co-founders of Unity, had created, where they had dedicated themselves to the spirit of truth, and it showed what they were giving and what they were receiving from the divine. And again, he talked about his own dedication to the divine and how we should all examine ours. And then last week, Louise Dunn had this lovely talk on praying without words and how every beat of our heart is a silent prayer, how every breath that we take and exhale is a silent prayer if we're mindful about it. Each of these in their own way speaks to our power of will and how we are willing things with alignment with the divine. Our overall focus this whole year has been on tuning out the noise and tuning in the vision. And I don't know about anybody else. I have been focused on that, and I have to say, every time I start really focusing on tuning out the noise, it seems like the volume gets louder. Anybody else experience that? Okay, good. It's like the world knows you're trying to focus in on what really matters, and so everything increases, right? So as I said, at the beginning of the month, Michael and I attended this wonderful conference, and although ostensibly it's a business conference, it was so much more than that. It felt so much more like a spiritual conference. There were so many wonderful workshops, and again, if that's me, let me know what I'm doing. Yes, I don't know. I can switch to this mic if that's going to be better. Okay. Everybody, I'm switching to this mic. Let me turn this one, that's wireless, off. All right. Better? Okay. So all of these workshops that were offered, and I took several of them, one of the first ones that I took was called The Phoenix, What Comes Next? And that had intrigued me, and a lot of it was about things we needed to let go of, right? Pour over me, Holy Spirit, help me know how to let go. There were so many themes throughout of resiliency and authenticity, and in this workshop, we focused on what no longer serves us, how do we let go of that, and then how do we identify the things that we really need to focus our life forward, in the now. So I will say one of the co-leaders, there were two women that led the workshop. One of them has a book called Origin Story, which if you're familiar with a lot of superhero stories, everybody has their origin story of being bitten by a radioactive spider or whatever it is. So for her, the book is meant to help people find their origin story. What point in my life did it turn me? What was my turning point? Her name, for anybody that likes to take notes and look these things up, Carrie Cluin Lawrence is the author, and the book is Origin Story. So going back to the Fillmores, Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, I had said Michael talked about their dedication. I want to read what they wrote for those that may have forgotten or those that weren't here for it or simply are not familiar with it. They wrote, and this was back in 1892, they wrote, "We, Charles Fillmore and Myrtle Fillmore, husband and wife, hereby dedicate ourselves, our time and money, all we have, all we expect to have, to the spirit of truth, and through it, to the society of silent unity. It being understood and agreed that the said spirit of truth shall render unto us an equivalent for this dedication in peace of mind, health of body, wisdom, understanding, love, life, and an abundant supply of all things necessary to meet every want, without our making any of these things the object of our existence." It is a very well thought out dedication. And I'm sure this was a turning point for them. I am also thoroughly convinced this was not their origin story. This was a culmination of their origin story. Their origin story would have started much earlier. It may have started when they were studying with Phineas Quimby. And again, if you're not familiar with early New Thought leader names, it's a lovely name, Phineas Quimby. It's right up there with Hypatia Hasbrook. I love these names. But Phineas was a 19th century New Thought practitioner, and the Fillmores did study with him. But I think even earlier than that, when they were first having their health challenges and they were looking for non-standard ways of just like, well, I'm just going to be sick and I'm going to die, that wasn't good enough for them. I think that was probably their origin story, their turning point. Because often our origin story, the thing that drives us, may come from those negative things, from the health, from the finances, from the abuse, the situations that we can no longer tolerate. And sometimes they get instilled in us so young that we can't even quite identify where it started. A lot of times we refer to that darker work as our shadow work of going back to, why do I react this way? And you try to figure out what shadows you carry so you can shed light on them. Shadows are not bad, but you need to put them in the light so you can see why you behave the way you behave. There was some shadow work questions. There were like about 100 questions from Rosie Levine that I found that were great questions. I distilled that down to a list of 8 for your benefit, so we're not here till all afternoon. But 8 questions. I'm going to ask each, and I want you to ponder each for 15 seconds, 30 seconds. Just think about each as I ask these. What are the values you were brought up with? Think about that for a moment. What values were you brought up with? What things do you notice trigger your body to tense up? How do your friends and family describe you? What do you wish your friends and family knew about you? What is something that you are often too embarrassed to admit to others? What are the things you wish you were better at? And 2 more questions. What kind of people do you attract around you? And the last one for this particular group, what kind of things about yourself make you feel less than others? Any one of these questions can have a lot to unpack, and I just asked you 8 of them. So there could be a lot there. But we're going to move on. I want to talk briefly about Ella Hicks. So Ella Hicks has a quote: "The first half of life is about becoming who you needed to be to survive. The second half is about unraveling everything that no longer aligns with your soul's purpose. That's not a midlife crisis, that's rebirth." She's speaking from her own experience because in her late 20s, she had fallen madly in love. And after a whirlwind romance, they got married. But even before the honeymoon was done, things started turning darker, even toward abusive. And as much as she kept believing that love conquers all, and I can love this through, and we will make it work, and they had children together, that didn't stop the abusive behavior. Until finally, one night, she grabbed her children and left the house with nothing but her kids, because she could not any longer subject herself and them to what was going on in that house. And she says that the road to healing was long and arduous, but through sheer determination and unwavering love for my children, I found the strength to rebuild my life from the ground up. And she founded an organization called Rebel Thriver. And Rebel Thriver is for other survivors like her, to help them. So you talk about an origin story, you talk about a turning point. That is taking your power of will, taking your darkest things and turning them into something that can help other people. Again, that quote, just so you can remember it. The first half of life is about becoming who you need, or who you needed to be to survive. The second half is about unraveling everything that no longer aligns with your soul's purpose, and that's not a midlife crisis, that's a rebirth. So speaking of rebirth brings me back to the Phoenix workshop. In case anybody's not aware, the phoenix is the mythological bird that is reborn from its ashes, so that's that connection. But that Phoenix workshop, again, we started with the things that don't serve you and analyzing that for ourselves. And then we got into how we introduce ourselves, how we present ourselves to others. So I might say, hi, I'm Reverend Edward Trout. I'm an interfaith minister, a speaker, an actor, director, improviser, artist, and musician. I want you to take a moment, and I want you to introduce yourself to people around you. Just a moment. If for some reason you are really introverted and feel you cannot do that, please speak the words aloud to no one, because there is power in the spoken word. So I want you to say your name, introduce yourself, and then introduce however you see yourself. And some of you are retired, and you're thinking, do I say my retired job? Do I say what I'm doing now with my time? That's up to you. I can't tell you how to identify yourself. This is for you to identify. So, hi, my name is blank, and I do this, or I am this. Go ahead, take just a minute to do that. Again, even if you're not talking to somebody, I should see your mouth moving because you should be speaking words. All right, that's lovely. That's lovely. Bring it back for a moment. But I will say we're not quite done because the next step in that workshop was we had to insert something in between our name and the things we do or the who we are. The thing that we had to insert in between was, hey, what are you passionate about? So for me, that sounds more like, hi, I'm Reverend Edward Trout. I am passionate about inspiring and empowering people, and I am passionate about creativity and the arts. I'm an interfaith minister, a speaker, an actor, director, improviser, artist, and musician. Right? So what are you passionate about? It may be a single thing. In my case, there were a few that came in there. What are you passionate about? You're going to do your introduction again. You can find different people. And again, if that is way out of your comfort zone to say this to somebody else, please just speak the words, but I want you to speak them. Even if it's to the air, there's no such thing as like a non-responsive universe. You're speaking to the universe. So here's my name, here's what I'm passionate about, and here are the things I do or who I am. Let's do that for a minute or two. All right, let's bring those back to our seats. And as you're coming back to your seat and we're getting settled back in, I want to ask a question, and I do want to hear answers to this. There's no single answer. There's no right answer. What was different about that time? What felt different? What seemed different about that second time? Made you feel better. Yeah, it's a much more full description. What else? What was that? More genuine. Anything else?
Like the umbrella under which everything else falls.
It's that umbrella. It gives us context.
It's that important piece, and then you've got how you achieve that important piece.
Yes. It's like, oh, this is my vision statement. This is my mission down here. These are the things I do, but this is my vision statement, right? And that's true for many people. Not everybody has that reaction, but most people, it's like, oh, it felt so much more like me. So why do we introduce ourselves and leave out our passions? Because I realize that's, I need to include that. I don't do that. I need to. That's huge. Speaking of passions, I ran across a piece of writing from Langston Hughes. Let me read it. Some of you may be familiar with it. But he wrote, I am so tired of waiting, aren't you, for the world to become good and beautiful and kind. Let us take a knife and cut the world in two and see what worms are eating at the rind. Now, this was from a publication of his uncollected protest writings. If you're not familiar with Langston Hughes was, amongst other things, an American poet, a social activist, did jazz poetry. He's really best known as one of the leaders of the Harlem Renaissance. And knowing those things about him, just this one little bit of writing, this one poem, like you see that, right? He had his passions, and they showed up in the things he did. I want to give you a couple of other quotes, and I won't name the source yet. Some of you will know. First one is, hate has talked so loudly for so long. Greed has talked so loudly for so long. Liars have talked so loudly for so long. Love has got to stop whispering. The next quote, yeah, I agree. The next quote from the same person. The way of the miracle worker is to see all human behavior as one of two things, either love or a call for love. Who is this speaker? Anybody? Marianne Williamson. Yes, author of Return to Love, former presidential candidate, amongst other things. But even in all of that, like this is who she is. This is what comes through. Everything she does, even her attempt at political position. This was how she showed up. So, who are you? What do you care about? How does that show up in your life? And also, really importantly, what do you tell yourself about all of that? In Unity, we are very big on affirmations and denials. To be clear, for anybody that is newer, a denial is not the psychological thing of, oh no, it's not happening. No, you go, oh, I see it happening. The denial is that it defines me or it can control me. My situation does not control me, I control me. My situation does not define me, I define me. So, and by the way, for maybe a little more clarification for how I also see that, it's like if I'm feeling an emotion, if I am feeling angry, which happens, I am not angry, I'm feeling angry. The anger is not who I am. I don't claim it as me, I claim it as something that I experience as part of this human experience. George Bernard Shaw said, life isn't about finding yourself, life is about creating yourself. And when I first heard that quote, I thought, I don't know, there's a lot of like going out and finding and experimenting and doing, and it's like, and then I realized, but even in that, I'm creating. I'm choosing that, oh yeah, that felt right. No, that didn't feel right. I'm creating that even if I'm experimenting. So I'm not finding it, I am still creating it. And if you don't create a life, you're living by default. You're living the life that other people built for you. That's not the life that you were brought here to be. You came into this world, came into this universe as an expression of spirit here on earth. You're the heart, you're the voice to make heaven known here on earth. That's why you're here. And that lines right up to me with our August affirmation. Aligning my will with the divine, I use my power of will to be the change I wish to see, which means I have to start with me. By identifying who I am and where my passions lie, right? Then I'm aligning myself with the divine. By aligning myself with the divine, I'm using my power of will to do the things and to be the things. I am the change I need to see in the world. If you've noticed, we've had a lot of I am references today. A lot of the songs have started with I am. And our last song will start with I am. I am the thinker. I am so grateful. I am blessed. And then, of course, we had I am that I am. The name of God. For those that are less familiar with that, back in Exodus chapter 3, verses 13, 14, Moses asks God, so when I go back to the children of Israel and I say, your God has sent me, and they say, oh, well, what's his name? What name do I give them? And God said, depending upon the translation, I am that I am, or it may be I am who I am, but I am that I am, that's what you shall tell them. And thus, I am has sent me to you, is what you'll say. I am has sent me to you. So when we talk about the Ten Commandments and taking the Lord's name in vain, yes, it is not good to link God's name with cursing, but that is not the biggest grievance of taking the Lord's name in vain. When you use the name of God to hurt people and to control people, That is taking the Lord's name in vain. And that includes yourself. So when you attach the I am to something that is untrue about you, that is taking the Lord's name in vain. When you make so many mistakes in a day and you say, I am so stupid. No, you're not. The truth is you made mistakes, yes. And maybe you're feeling tired and that's why you were making mistakes. But again, feeling tired is not, I am tired. Feeling it is a temporary experience. Don't claim it as your identity. That's not where your passions lie. Your passions don't lie in being fatigued. Your passions lie in the other things. That's what you claim. That's your I am. There are so many. I could keep going on and on about that. I think you get it. You get it. So as we're getting close to the end of this, just a little bit more about Rev Ed. In my feed of social media, there will often be foreign language things that show up. A little bit of Spanish, because I've been doing that on Duolingo. French shows up all the time. And I'm not fluent. I have studied, but I'm not fluent. But so when they come up, I do my best to be like, oh, can I translate this? Without trying to look for translation. And I had one just a week ago that showed up, and I was translating it, and then I realized, oh, that's really lovely. But there's one word I can't quite get, and I have to look it up. So I'm not going to bore you with all of the French, but what it said was, don't waste your time chasing butterflies because they will fly away from you. Spend your time building a beautiful garden, and they will come to you. And then the last line was, ne chassez pas, attirez. And it's like, ne chassez pas, I get it. Don't chase them, don't go hunting them. It's like, attirer, I don't know that verb. What is attirer? Don't chase, attract. Don't chase, attract. So you don't go chasing the things that your ego tells you you want. The thing that the world sets up that you want. The things that, the life that other people around you told you you needed. That's when you're chasing the butterflies and driving them away. But when you build the thing that you know you need based on your passions, you're creating that garden and you're attracting the butterflies. Just like Charles and Myrtle Fillmore and their dedication to the divine. And just like Ella Hicks and her desire to then help people who were in the same situation as her, and just like Langston Hughes, who was so passionate about social justice. And once you are doing that, you take that next step that he said and cut the world open and see what worms are eating at the rind. That's how you solve the problems. Not by ignoring them, not by glossing over, not by toxic positivity, but by saying, hey, this is the situation. What's actually going on? How do we get at that thing eating away at the heart of what's going on with us? Like Marianne Williamson, you want to return to love. Like George Bernard Shaw, build that life, create it. So don't go chasing a life that is not already within you. That's where your life starts. You are here to be a blessing to the world. In fact, I want you to say, I am a blessing and I am blessed. I want to hear everybody say that. I am a blessing and I am blessed. Okay, so in volume, we were okay. In believability that I think you really feel that right here, it was a little lower than volume. I want you to claim it. This is something you, at your core center, you need to claim this. This is an I am statement, and this is the truth of you. Say it like that. I am a blessing, and I am blessed. One more time, even more grounded. I am a blessing, and I am blessed. Yes. Identify who you are. Identify what your passions are. Identify what is yours to do. And when you are clear on your own story, the butterflies will come. And so it is. Amen, Amin, Aho, Ashe, Namaste.
Now I know why you wanted to sing this song, Ed. You are a child of the universe, radiating light just like a star. You are a child of the universe, and the universe is blessed by who you are. You are a child of the universe, causing spirit to rise up and sing. You are a child of the universe, and the universe is blessed by what you bring. You may see shadows of illusion, trying to hide your light beneath the world's demands. But amidst the chaos and confusion, there is one truth which you must understand. You are a child of the universe. You're a part of me and I'm a part of you. You are a child of the universe, and the universe is blessed by all you do. You are a child of the universe, burning just as brightly as the sun. You are a child of the universe, and the universe is blessed by we are one. We may see shadows of illusion, trying to hide our light beneath the world's demands. But amidst the chaos and confusion, there is one truth which we must understand. We all are children of the universe, burning just as brightly as the sun. We all are children of the universe, and the universe is blessed that we are one. We all are children of the universe, radiating light just like a star. We all are children of the universe, and the universe is blessed by who we are. Yes, the universe is blessed by who we are. The universe is blessed by who we are.